South Korea has had one of the most dramatic tourism glow-ups of any country in the past decade, and you can see exactly why. Seoul is stunning. The food is incredible. The fashion, the skincare, the cafes, the street markets, the efficiency of public transit, it all adds up to this feeling that you've landed somewhere. The rest of the world hasn't quite figured out yet. Tourists come back obsessed. People plan second trips before the first one ends. But there's a version of the South Korea that most tourists never see. Not because it's hidden exactly, but because it only reveals itself when you stop visiting and start living. So today, that's what we're doing. Visitor South Korea versus local South Korea. And I'll warn you up front, the gap is bigger than you think. Let's get into it. If you visit South Korea, especially Seoul, the first thing that hits you is how alive everything feels. Hongdae at midnight, Myeongdong on a Saturday. The kind of food markets where you don't know what half the things are, so you just point and eat, and it's perfect every time. The convenience stores that are genuinely better than most restaurants. The cherry blossoms in spring that make you understand why people plan their entire trips around 2 weeks in April. And then there's the K-culture of it all. BTS tourism is a real documented economic phenomenon. Fans fly in from Brazil, from Germany, from the Philippines, just to stand outside the high building or eat at a restaurant their favorite idol once mentioned. The Korean wave, Hallyu, has turned the country into a pop culture destination in a way that's genuinely unprecedented. K-pop, K-drama, K-beauty, Korean food, it all has this global gravitational pull right now. The infrastructure is also remarkable. Seoul's subway system is clean, cheap, fast, and has Wi-Fi underground. The KTX bullet trains connect major cities in under 2 hours. You can get almost anything delivered to your door in under an hour. The country runs at a speed that feels almost surreal. If you're coming from a place where things move slowly and people are warm, South Korea has an incredibly strong culture of hospitality, especially toward tourists. And that warmth is real, not performative. So you leave thinking, this place is it. This is where I want to be. And then you stay. And you start to see the other side. Here is something tourists almost always notice, but rarely fully understand. Everyone looks incredible. The skincare routines, the fashion, the way people present themselves in public, it's striking. And a lot of it genuinely comes from a culture that values aesthetics and self-care in ways that can be admirable. But here's the thing, it's not optional. South Korea has one of the highest cosmetic surgery rates in the world. Studies estimate that somewhere between 1 in 3 and 1 in 5 South Korean women has had a cosmetic procedure. Seoul's Gangnam district has more plastic surgery clinics per square mile than almost anywhere on Earth. And it's not because people are doing it secretly. Procedures like double eyelid surgery and rhinoplasty are openly discussed and sometimes given as graduation gifts. And this pressure starts early, really early. There's a well-documented phenomenon in South Korea called lookism. Discrimination based on appearance. It affects hiring, it affects promotions, it affects dating. Job applications in South Korea can legally request a photo, and studies show attractive candidates are significantly more likely to get callbacks. For young women especially, the standard is specific and unforgiving. Pale skin, large eyes, a small face, a slim figure. The phrase in Korean is jagon olgul, small face. It is considered a compliment. It is also an impossible standard. Girls as young as 12 are already navigating social pressure around their appearance. Teenage girls have described feeling surveilled in ways that have nothing to do with their personality, their intelligence, or what they're good at. For tourists, this reads as a culture that takes care of itself. For locals, it can feel like a standard you never fully meet. South Korea's economic rise from one of the poorest countries in the world to a global powerhouse in less than 60 years is one of the most remarkable stories of the 20th century. And the driving force behind it has a name, Pali Pali. It means hurry, hurry. And it is not just a phrase. It is a cultural operating system. South Korean students are, by most metrics, among the most academically pressured in the world. The Sunyung, the National University Entrance Exam, is a single test that can define the trajectory of your entire life. On exam day, the country restructures itself around it. Stock market openings are delayed. Military aircraft are grounded, so there's no noise disturbance. Families pray at temples for weeks beforehand. Getting into a Scout University, Seoul National, Korea University, or Yonsei is the goal. And the competition is brutal. Students attend Hagwons, private tutoring academies after regular school hours, sometimes until 10 or 11 p.m., not occasionally, regularly, starting in elementary school. Then they graduate, and the work culture meets them. South Korea has some of the longest working hours of any developed nation. For years, a 68-hour legal work week was standard. In 2018, that was reformed down to 52 hours, which was considered a major victory. For context, the EU cap is 48, and the law gets applied unevenly, especially in smaller companies, and especially for junior employees who feel they can't leave before their boss does. There's a concept called gapjil, the abuse of power by someone in a position of authority. It's widely talked about because it's widely experienced. You don't push back. You don't leave first. You work hard and you show loyalty, and maybe eventually your seniority earns you something. For visitors, South Korea looks like a country that runs perfectly. For a lot of locals, it's a country where the running never stops. This is the part of the story that South Korea is slowly starting to talk about more openly. But for a long time, it wasn't talked about at all. South Korea has one of the highest suicide rates among developed nations. It is consistently the leading cause of death for South Koreans between the ages of 10 and 39. Not accidents, not illness, suicide. That number does not exist in a vacuum. It exists alongside academic pressure that starts in childhood, a beauty standard that is relentless and specific, a work culture that is exhausting and hierarchical, and a historically deep stigma around mental health that has made it difficult for people to ask for help without feeling like they're admitting failure. Things are changing. South Korea has invested more in mental health infrastructure in recent years, and younger generations are far more willing to discuss it openly. But the shift is slow. The structure that produces the pressure is still largely in place. There's also a loneliness epidemic that doesn't match the image. South Korea has one of the lowest birth rates on the planet. In 2023, the fertility rate hit 0.72, far below the replacement level of 2.1. One of the most frequently cited reasons. Young people can't afford children, and more fundamentally, can't afford the pressure of trying to raise them in a system they're already exhausted by. Seoul is also one of the most expensive cities in Asia for housing. The Jeonse system, where you pay a massive lump sum deposit instead of monthly rent, means you need to have tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, just to secure an apartment. Young people are increasingly locked out. This is the city tourists' photograph against pink blossom trees. These are the people smiling in the cafes. Both things are true, and that's the whole point. South Korea is genuinely one of the most remarkable places in the world to visit. I'm not walking that back. The food, the culture, the energy, it earns every bit of the obsession people have with it. Hey, man. But there's a version of the country that's underneath the surface, and it's not a secret. Koreans talk about it, they write about it. The fertility rate is a screaming statistic. The working hours are documented. The pressure on young people is something an entire generation has been living through out loud. The tourist version and the local version are both real. They're just describing completely different experiences of the same place. And I think that's worth knowing before you decide which one you're actually looking for. Drop your South Korea experiences in the comments. Visitor, expat, local, or just someone who's watched too many K-dramas and is now planning a trip. I want to hear it. And subscribe if you want more videos that actually dig into what life looks like under the surface of places the internet tells you are perfect.